Okay, everything should be set. The streaming is starting. As always, guys, do let me know if you can hear me. Let me place this here for a while. Let me know if you can hear my audio. I don't even know how many people are watching. Nobody. It's a Friday afternoon. Probably people are already on holiday. Okay, so today what I want to do, I want to show you how I did the lens flare. This was something that was asked in one of the comments. I'll show you the image. There we go. So basically, one of the questions was, I think it was below here, right? Make a tutorial on the lights. Yes, so we're gonna do this. It's I find it very easy to make this kind of effect in Corona. Let's just jump right into it. 3 people watching. Guys, if you can hear the audio, is there audio? There we go. So let's just start with making a model. Okay, we can use the car. Actually, let's open the car. Let me see. I should have it. The wheel. There it is. Good. So the model is already set up, and I'm still finishing to optimizing it because there are some things that I have to remodel, which I've done, you know, with some booleans, so they're not super clean, and I gotta restructure them, and then I'll put the model online so that people can download it. But basically, the render setting, it's really simple. There is actually nothing too obscure or too complicated. I'll show you. I'll just make a rendering quickly of this the wheel, and you'll see everything is actually inside the rendering, so there is no post-production at all. My computer is a little bit slow this year. I think I'll have to get a new one. There we go. So you see the effect is in render. This is a test that I was doing without the overhead light. So eventually what happens is that if the light is not super balanced, obviously this effect will be more visible inside the camera. But let's just get into the execution of both the material and the light, so that you'll see how simple this is. So I'll just make a brand new file, and I'll build the light the way I actually created it. So if you start from a box, let's make it a real size, say 45, maybe that's even less, 35, and then this size will probably be 50, and the height will be something like 30 more or less. There you go. So now you have a box that kind of resembles the hi Mike, by the way, how's it going? So you have a box that resembles more or less like the headlights of a car. So C for conversion. I'm going to select this face, right click and say split. Then I'm gonna delete the face below. So these are now 2 separate elements. You see I got the front element and the cube behind, and this is because I'm going to need a reflective surface at the back plus the light itself in the front. So for the light, what I'm going to do, I'm going to say MW to kind of create a couple of insets. Actually, I'll just create one, move it forward. UL, I'll change the mode to edge. MS to smooth that out and add some subdivisions. There you go. So this is like sort of a light. It's okay, it's not perfect, it's fine, we'll leave it like this. Actually, one thing that we could do is KL, and we can cut it here, drop this inside an hyperNURBS or subdivision surface. Ooh, wrong element. Here it is. KL, we'll put some more cats. Actually, let's just undo this. We don't want that. I'll have to spend a little bit of time redoing this. It's fine, we'll leave it like this. Now, myself, I'm very lazy when it comes to create geometry and work with like textures, and you know, if it's a project that requires that, I will do it. But if it's a personal project, my goal will always be try to achieve as much as I can with the least of the effort. So I'll show you how I created the glass material and the metal material. So I'm gonna change my render engine to Corona, and I'm going to create two materials. The first one will be a Corona normal material with a very high reflection, something like 22, and a black diffuse color. I don't really care that it's fully reflective. Actually, I should, so let's just put this down to 90%. That's fine. And then I'm going to say, since the geometry is looking towards the outside, you are to flip it, and I'm gonna apply this material to the box. Then I'm gonna create a material for the light. Now, the material for the light, I'll create it with a little bit of an iteration. You know, I'm very, hi guys, nice joining you. I'll create it in a very simple way. So let's do it. New material. We'll call this glass, you know. And then we're gonna start. For the diffuse, I'll leave it for now. We don't really care. Let's start working on, say, the refraction. I'm gonna go into the refraction and I'm going to drop an image. This image will be probably from the textures that I've used here. Actually, I don't have those. Maybe I should go to my Dropbox public folder. Akira, where did I put the Fiat car? Let me see. I don't really know where I put that one. Okay, let's just look for a actually I should have it here. Let me see. 127, there it is. I got my textures, and I'm just going to use a light texture. Now, if you see, like if I maximize this, this is just a picture of a headlight, okay? And I made a texture, kind of a pseudo texture. And that's okay, because, you know, in terms of like level of details, if I'm not gonna zoom onto this element, you're probably not going to recognize any of these details. So, you know, for the purpose that I used this texture, it was good enough, okay? I'm not saying that this is the optimal way to do it. I'm just saying this is the easy way to do it. And I'll show you in a second. So I'm just gonna use this element here. I don't wanna save it. I'll put it inside the refraction. I think that I put it inside the refraction. I don't know. This is a little bit of a, what do you call it? Iteration, you know, trial and error. Then I'm gonna put it also in the reflection, actually. I'm just gonna take this and drop it inside the reflection texture. And you know what? I'll just put it also into the diffuse, because I really don't know what it's happening when I'm doing this. You know, I kind of know what it did when I was doing it in V-Ray, but I'm guessing they behave almost the same. And then for the displacement, I've prepared a very similar texture, which is basically this texture overlaid with some vertical stripes. Okay, and then of course I lowered the contrast at the back. Again, this is a super lazy way to do it, but the result looks okay. I'm gonna put this into the displacement. Displacement will be very low displacement, something like 0.2 maybe. Looks a little bit more realistic. And you know, just to add that slight amount of detail, I'll take this and I'll put it also into the bump. And the bump will be something like 0.2%. Good, so now that I'm ready with this texture, and I don't know if it's going to work, honestly, I don't really remember if that's the way I've done it, but you know, I'll show you, this is a iterative process. Now I'll take the cube, take this glass texture. Now as you can see, the glass texture actually maps almost perfectly, but to be sure, I'm just gonna change these to flat. I'm gonna activate the texture mode. Gonna rotate it 90 degrees, scale it down. Then I'm gonna say right click, fit to object. And now I know that more or less it's mapped correctly, at least flat onto the surface. Good, so probably in order for us to see a little bit better what is happening, I might need to have some sort of background, but it's okay, I'll leave it like this. So now I've got nothing inside my scene, so if I'm gonna render it, it's going to come out dark, basically. I'm gonna say Corona camera. There it is. So I'm looking into the Corona camera directly. And then I'm gonna take a couple of Corona lights. Change my display to something like quick shading lines. I'm gonna turn these Corona lights into this direction, so the blue line shows the direction of the light. I'll change the mode from rectangular to circle. I'm gonna scale it down, place it somewhere here. There we go. Then I'll make a copy. I'll probably make this copy a little bit bigger. Let me change this to lines. Yeah, there you go. So that, you know, you have kind of like there is a difference in size, and that should look a little bit more realistic. Great, so now that I'm all set, all I have to do is let me just render it so that you see what we get when I do that. So now, as you can see, not much of an effort to make this looking good. Actually, the model is really bad. Let me just replace it with something a little bit more. Let me just put a plane. There we go. I'll center it into my geometry. Actually, I could also be precise and use the same sizes of this. So, what did we say? 50 and 30. There we go. Now I can take these, I can pass my material on top of it. Whoops. There you go. And I can get rid of this cube. Maybe I'll take this plane and move it forward. Yeah, that should do. There we go. So now, as you can see, if I open my render, you'll see that the image is rendered, but you don't get the flare, and that's because you have to switch on the flare. It's a very simple thing to do. You'll find these effects in the post tab inside of the frame buffer, and you'll find these effects inside the bloom and glare tab. So once you switch it on, the effect will be calculated, and then all you have to do is play a little bit with the intensity of the light, as well as the parameters of the bloom intensity. So let's just for now change the bloom intensity to something like 10, and maybe change the glare intensity to something like 5. Another thing that I like to do is I'll actually re-render this because I don't like the geometry. It's actually annoying me. I don't want to save this, and I'm gonna say stop. Render. There you go. So now you'll start to see the geometry that it's rendering. Obviously, it looked a little bit better before with the geometry a little bit curved, but that's the concept behind it. Now, one thing that I like to do, I like to work with a strict count of lower numbers, say something like 2, and then the rotation something like 16.5 or something like that. Maybe with this bloom intensity and so close to the camera, you don't really get to see it. Maybe let me get away a little bit from this geometry and let's try and re-render this. Stop render. And this looks a little bit better, right? And that's basically how you do it. Now, the thing is that in my case, what I've done, I went inside each single light, and in order to make this a little bit more realistic, I start to change the intensity of the single lights, because, you know, in reality, even though the two lights might be exactly the same, the result might not be exactly the same. So let's change this. Let's make it a little bit more reddish maybe. Let's re-render. So you see, you start to get a more realistic output. And then as I said before, you know, it depends how far from your picture you actually are. Because, for instance, in this case, when I was staying at this distance, the amount of detail that I had in the glass was actually enough. Now, you see these two elements on the side. How do you achieve this? This is actually very easy. Basically, what you have to do, in this case, my box is squared, but if you were to, let me change the display to something like this. Actually, now you don't see it. Okay, let me change it to hidden lines. Now, if I take this box and I scale down this element, and maybe I'll bring it closer. Just want to make sure that I'm still, there you go. If I go back to my camera now, since I have this element reflecting not straight but like at an angle, if I now were to re-render, actually I want to render in my frame buffer, now you'll start to see those elements on the side. Okay, it takes a little bit of trial and error. Having two streaks, you see, accentuate this idea of the flare and the bloom. And this is basically how I did it. Then you can play a little bit with the intensity of the light. You can say to both lights, okay, maybe this is a little bit too strong. Make it 15 and 25. Re-render it. It takes a little bit, you know, of trying different values, trying different, maybe, you know, take the box and scale it also in this direction. Oops, I started Octane. Don't crash me. Actually, I ran out of the license of Octane, so should be fine. Very cool. And now, in order for me to add some details, one of the things that I do is probably, you know, put some elements in front of the lights, like say a disc. I scale it down, I'll go front view, scale it down, put it in front of this element, make a copy, scale that copy down, take both discs, move them right in front of the light. I'll make those disks also reflective. In this case, you know, if they're children of the cube, they're gonna inherit the same material. And now if I render these as well, you'll see that I start adding a little bit of details to these slides, okay? And you can play with a lot of different combinations. I think this is the same technique that I've used with the Fiat 127. I think I've done the same, maybe at the back, not at the front. Yes, you see? And the concept for the materials and for the, you know, the modeling, it's actually pretty much the same. The effect, it's really strong, it's powerful. All you have to do is play around a little bit with the settings and eventually you'll get there. Okay, I wanted to keep this tutorial very, very short. I really hope you find it useful. In case you do, I'd love to see those thumbs up. I think I'm gonna log off for now. Thanks a lot for watching, guys, and I'll see you the next time.